is Kamera with Points in the Bible. I'm covering days 259 through 261, Daniel chapter 4 through chapter 12. So good, so good. You have where God shows us that He is the ruler over all and that He blesses whom He will. So be careful of your pride, because just like God blessed you to get what you have, He can also take it from you. Gave us a great example with Nebuchadnezzar, who God had used to destroy all nations, and he had great plunder and he had many captives. And yeah, he ruled over all nations at this point. And so one night he decided to just look over all the kingdom and say, look what I obtained with my own power. And so God wasn't pleased with that. He gave him a vision that night, showed him this big tree that was strong and secure, talked more about what this tree had. It was a good tree, very fruitful tree, and this tree was cut down to the stump, and let him know there was a voice that called out and said, it is God who is rule over all, and yeah, He blesses whom He will. And so Nebuchadnezzar was pretty distraught about that. He called his wise men to interpret that dream for him. They couldn't. Only Daniel could. And Daniel let him know that tree that you dreamed of, that big strong tree, that was you. God blessed you with everything that you have. That basically, right? And he says that stump, that tree that was cut down to the stump, that's you. You will, everything's going to be taken from you. You're going to be cast out of human society to live as a wild animal for 7 seasons. And I'm thinking 7 seasons, is that 7 years? It was for some time, until you recognize that it is God who is ruler over all nations, and He bless whom He will. So then Daniel gave Nebuchadnezzar advice, told him to change from his wicked ways and do right by God, basically. Whole year passed. Nebuchadnezzar goes on his balcony again, looks over the kingdom and says, look what I have obtained. That's us. When we look over what we have gotten by our own strength, by our own knowledge, by our own finances, by our own strength. Isn't that something? By our own knowledge and wisdom, understanding. We've gotten this by our own power. Yeah, that's what we do. And so, yeah, at that moment, he cast him out of human society. He lived in the fields as a wild animal. And for 7 seasons, and I'm thinking 7 periods of time, that's what it said. And I'm thinking that's 7 years. I don't know what 7 periods of time is. Anyway, I'm thinking at least 7 years, right? So then eventually he recognized that it's God who's ruled over everything, and He does bless whom He will. Isn't that something? And so he was restored. So you had Nebuchadnezzar, who God had blessed with so much. And once he was filled with pride, God took him out. And then Nebuchadnezzar repented. And then he was restored. And now he is blessing, letting everyone, he's giving his testimony to people throughout all nations, throughout the world, every language, and telling them that who God is. God is the ruler of all things. He's the one who blesses us. Yeah, he has a great testimony. So guys, we got to be careful that when it is God who blesses us with our life, our health, our strength. He grants us favor. He grants us wisdom. He grants us knowledge. He's the one who allows us to obtain things, so we have to understand that if God does not bless us to have it, we're not going to have it. Whether you believe God or not, He's the one who blessed you to have what you have. You don't have to, even if you never believe Him, understand you have it because God blessed you with it, and He can take it away. And so, yeah, pride before fall. You heard that before. And so, yeah, He's the one who decides if we wake up as well. Keeps us safe. Thank you, Lord, for keeping my family safe. Thank you for my husband. Thank you for a good husband. Thank you for my good children. Thank you for the clothes you blessed them to have, blessed me to have. Thank you for the house you blessed me to have. Thank you for the money in my bank account. Thank you for my job. Thank you for everything. Thank you for a safe neighborhood. Thank you for all of the things you blessed me with. Thank you for my life, my health. All of that comes from God. Thank you for being in the right frame of mind. All of that comes from God. So Lord, I thank you for it. And so that's what we need to recognize. God bless whom he will with what he wants them to have. And thank you for the mind to get it. For the mind to go to school and get my education, or for the intelligence and for the skill and of trade, or some people don't even go to college, but God bless them with some type of talent to become like super rich, right? And the blessings are not only financial, but in other ways as well. Thank you for peace of mind, Lord. And so, yeah, you had that situation. And then I love the way God used Daniel in the place of royal service in the corporate area. God has his people in every status, every rank of life. Yes, he does. And he allowed Daniel to minister to these kings. Isn't that something? Let them see God through him. And so you have Belshazzar, who's Nebuchadnezzar's son. Many years later, he's partying, having this feast, and he calls for royal objects that were taken from Jerusalem. Remember, Nebuchadnezzar took everything. He took those royal objects, those sacred objects from the temple of God. Belshazzar called from those, they drinking their spirits and their wines or what have you, and they're worshiping idols while they're doing this as well. And so you have this finger comes out of nowhere and start writing on the wall. That right there was a party stopper. And so now you have Belshazzar, who's so scared. He calls his enchanters. He called his mediums or what have you, fortune tellers, and his sorcerers, and he needs the interpretation. They don't know. So the queen mother reminds him of Daniel. And so Daniel comes, and Daniel reminds him of all that God had done for his father Nebuchadnezzar, how God had blessed him with all these different nations, and everything he blessed him with. And then he said, he reminded him of what Nebuchadnezzar had gone through. It was risen to like this great riches, and then all of it was taken away, and then God restored him. You saw all of this, yet you still defy God. And he points out the sin that he had done and told him what that interpretation was. Your days have been counted. Your kingdom will be divided between the Medes and the Persians. And so like Belshazzar, he went ahead and did what he said he was going to do, give the person who interprets it, some items, royal robes and purple and what have you. And he was going to make him third ruler over the kingdoms. That was the third highest ruler. Isn't that something? So it's like, oh my gosh, Daniel really was elevated just by being obedient to God and being used by God. And pretty, I'm sure he was very faithful in service as well. But notice how he ministered to these kings, right? So then fast forward, the kingdom was taken, and you had Darius who came, right? Darius, he divided the nations into 120 provinces. He made Daniel over a few provinces, and he planned on promoting him even higher. And you had people who were watching Daniel, and they were jealous of Daniel, and they did not want him to get that position. And so they tried to find fault with Daniel. But Daniel, he was honest. He was efficient. They couldn't find any fault in his work. Men and women of God, do your job and do it well. People are watching you. And not only that, God wants those people to watch you so that you will be a light to those people, so they can see Christ through you. So yes, people are watching. Don't be mad at people watching. You just make sure that you're representing God. You are keeping a relationship with God. You are asking God for patience with people. You are asking God to help you to forgive. You are asking God to bridle your tongue. You're asking God to teach you to love people genuinely, okay, to be that light. So when people see you, they see God. So the only way they can strike Daniel is through his relationship with God. So then they go to the king and they tell the king, you should have this royal decree where only people have to pray to you for 30 days. If they pray to any other god or to anything else, then they be thrown in the lion's den. All right, fast forward. King signs his decree. It cannot be changed by anyone, not even the king. You have to follow through. So, of course, they checked in on Daniel. What was Daniel doing? What he do every day, 3 times a day, pray. Bible says that he prayed facing Jerusalem, and that was one of those things that Solomon had prayed. Anyone who prays facing Jerusalem, Lord, please hear their prayer. Daniel did that 3 times a day. And so then you had where the king had to follow through. He was not happy about that, and what he did was he tried to look for a loophole to get Daniel out of that, but he couldn't. He couldn't, and so he had to follow through. And so he's like, Daniel, may your God keep you safe. And the king couldn't eat that night. He really, the entertainment, he rejected anything that he normally do. He was very concerned about Daniel. So the next day he went down and said, did your God, Daniel, did your God save you? Did he keep you safe? Daniel's like, yes, I'm good. My God proved to me that I was not guilty, that I did not do you wrong. And I love the fact that because Daniel stood for righteousness, he chose to listen to God rather than man, to worship God rather than man. He did not reject God. He continued to serve God faithfully. God proved them, you did right, Daniel. And Daniel was not, he said, the Lord had sent the angel to keep the lion's mouth closed. Isn't that something? And so the king was pretty upset about being put in that position. He went and got those men who did that to Daniel, or told on Daniel, or put Daniel in that position, put the king in that position too, right? To put Daniel in the lion's den. Anyway, he took them, their wives, their children, threw them in there. And that's something, guys, you got to be careful. What you do affect your family. Be careful of that. But people do watch you. They do watch you. Stop looking for fault in people, right? And that's what they're doing, looking for fault. And so God has enough blessings for everyone. I'm just saying. Anyway, so look at how God had delivered him. And this king gave God praises for this. And when you read his prayers, part of his prayer is saying he even protected Daniel from the lions. Isn't that something? But when he threw those men in that lion's den, the lions immediately bit onto them before they even hit the ground. Isn't that something? But those are the same lions that did not touch Daniel. Isn't that somehow God protect us through that foolishness? Our enemies out to destroy us. But hey, God turned that thing around, right? So we have to understand who we are serving. We are serving a good God. He is faithful, and we need to be faithful to him, just like he's faithful to us. And so fast forward, you'll see where Daniel had these dreams and these visions, and how God had given him interpretation of, had visitors to come and tell him what those dreams was all about. They were about mainly the end times, right? These talks about the beast and it mentioned even, the Son of God is supposed to be coming. If you read it, you'll see it. I love the fact that it talks about when Daniel had fasted and he had prayed, and how the messenger had come and told him, from the first moment that you decided to pray and you fasted when he chastened himself, you were heard from that first moment. That's for us, guys. The moment we set our hearts to really seek God and we fast, whether we pray only or we pray and fasting, God hears us. Yes, the messenger was held up in the spiritual realm by the spirits, but then God sent the archangel Michael to deal with them. And now he has come to give him the interpretation and told him it's going to happen. You're not going to be here, Daniel, when that happened, but this is what's going to happen. He told him about the end times. Something interesting, right? And so a couple times when he was visited, he was told that God, that he is very special to God. So guys, there's some awesome points in here, guys. Awesome points. So if you have any points you'd like to add, please place them in the comments area. I covered day number 259 through 261, Daniel chapter 4 through chapter 12. You have a God-filled blessed day.